March 20th, 2018, 2:30 in the afternoon. Security cameras at a Walmart in Plano, Texas, capture what appears to be an ordinary shopping day. An elderly woman in a bright red jacket pushes her cart through the aisles, selecting groceries, completely unaware that she's being watched. Look closer at the footage. There's a man, approximately 5 feet 10 inches tall, wearing clean business casual clothing. He's not shopping, he's trailing. For over 20 minutes, he mirrors her every movement, aisle by aisle, maintaining just enough distance to avoid detection. The woman finishes her shopping, pays at the register, and walks to her car. The man follows her out, he gets into his vehicle and trails her out of the parking lot. What this woman doesn't know yet is that she's just been selected as the next target of a criminal who has been stalking retirement communities across Dallas for years. A criminal who may have been responsible for the deaths of over 700 elderly victims, and nobody suspected a thing. But let's rewind, because this story doesn't begin at Walmart. It begins with a woman who refused to become just another statistic. A woman who would do something truly extraordinary. At 91 years old,
I knew instantly when I saw those two green rubber gloves, my life was in grave danger. He said, "Don't fight me, lie on the bed."
March 19th, 2018, 9 o'clock in the morning. A 911 dispatcher in Plano, Texas receives a frantic call from Preston Place, a luxury retirement community. An elderly woman's voice trembles on the line. Her neighbor won't wake up.
Hello, 911. What's the emergency?
We have a neighbor that we cannot awake.
When first responders arrive at the apartment of 91-year-old Mary Bartell, they find her lying motionless on her bed. Her friend Jackie had arrived to pick Mary up for their daily exercise class, as she did every morning. But this time, Mary wasn't waiting by the door. The door was slightly open. Jackie pushed it further and saw her dear friend unconscious on the bed. Mary Bartell had lived at Preston Place for 4 years with her beloved husband, Don. They were high school sweethearts, married for 67 years until Don's passing in 2015. Despite being over 90 years old, Mary was anything but frail. She worked out regularly, had an active social life, attended mass, and was sharp as ever. There was no medical reason for her to suddenly collapse. As EMTs check her pulse, something miraculous happens. Mary opens her eyes. The police officer leans in close. Mary, struggling to speak, lifts her hand toward him. She points to her finger. Her wedding ring is gone. The ring she never took off. The ring she wore while sleeping, while bathing, through every moment since Dawn placed it on her finger decades ago. It's missing. And so is every other piece of valuable jewelry in her apartment. Sergeant Brian France feels that sinking feeling in his gut. He remembers something. A bulletin from another officer about elderly deaths and missing jewelry. Could this be connected? Mary is rushed to the hospital, clinging to life. But before she loses consciousness again, she does something crucial. She gives police a detailed description of her attacker. A tall man, green rubber gloves. The moment she saw those gloves, she knew her life was in grave danger.
I thought I would die. I'm not afraid to die, but I didn't die that way.
Now, detectives have what they've been missing for years: a survivor, a witness, and a description. To understand what Mary survived, we need to go back 6 months earlier, summer 2017. 9 miles from Preston Place, at Parkview Frisco Retirement Community, 82-year-old Helen Lee lives peacefully. Helen worked as a seamstress for over 45 years before retiring. Her granddaughter visits all the time. Her best friend, 90-year-old Marilyn Bixler, lives in the same building, just 2 floors down. They're inseparable, always going to lunch together, finding any excuse to spend time together. The building seems safe. The stairwell connecting their floors is never locked. There are no surveillance cameras. Nobody thinks there needs to be. September 1st, 2017. It's a normal Friday. Helen and Marilyn are enjoying their retirement, surrounded by friends, feeling secure in their community, but within just a few weeks, both women will be found passed away in their apartments. Sunday, September 3rd. Helen's granddaughter arrives at church, expecting to see her Grammy in their usual pew, but Helen never shows up. Concerned, the granddaughter drives to Helen's apartment to check on her. She finds her grandmother lying motionless in her bedroom, a cane at her side. The authorities arrive quickly. After a brief examination, they determine Helen died of natural causes. A heart attack, they say. She was 82 years old after all. No autopsy is performed. But something doesn't sit right with the family. Helen was lying perfectly straight on her bed as if someone had carefully positioned her body. There are marks on her arms, and her jewelry, including the ring she never removed, is gone. When they report the missing jewelry to police, they're told something shocking. Helen probably died naturally, and someone just happened to come by afterward and steal the jewelry off her deceased person. The case is closed. Weeks later, Marilyn Bixler is also found passed away in her apartment. Same building, same circumstances, jewelry missing. The family asks the obvious question: did someone hurt their mother? But again, authorities rule it a natural death. No investigation, no autopsy, just another elderly woman who passed away in a retirement home. Nothing suspicious here. Except it's not just Helen and Marilyn. Between 2016 and 2018, hundreds of elderly women are passing away in Dallas area retirement communities under similar circumstances. The deaths are classified as natural, unattended deaths. Nobody is looking for a pattern. Nobody is connecting the dots. The retirement homes aren't raising alarms. In fact, when concerned residents try to put up warning posters about the jewelry thefts, the posters are quickly taken down by management. They claim the signs could cause unnecessary worry and stress among residents. The families are devastated. They're being told their mothers and grandmothers died peacefully of old age and then were robbed post-mortem. But the timeline doesn't make sense. The positioning of the bodies doesn't make sense. The marks don't make sense. One victim's glasses are found twisted completely backward on her face. These are not the signs of peaceful, natural passings. Detective work begins quietly. Officer Chapman puts out a bulletin about the unusual pattern of deaths and missing jewelry at senior living facilities. Most officers brush it off. Elderly people pass away. That's what happens in retirement homes. But a few investigators start paying attention. They notice something troubling. Normally, there might be 3 deaths per year at a large facility like Tradition Prestonwood. But suddenly, they're seeing several deaths in just 3.5 months. All with stolen jewelry, all ruled natural causes without investigation. The investigators start looking at 4 specific luxury senior living facilities where the pattern is most pronounced: Preston Place, Tradition Prestonwood, Parkview Frisco, the Courtyard. Between these 4 facilities alone, they're looking at somewhere around 700 or more unattended deaths over a 2-year period. Not all of them are suspicious, but enough of them share disturbing similarities that investigators can no longer ignore the pattern. And then there's Edmundo Sanchez, the Community Relations Director at Tradition Prestonwood. When families come to him asking about their missing jewelry, his responses are oddly dismissive. These residents hide stuff in their personal drawers sometimes, he tells them with a shrug. When pressed further about multiple thefts, he seems unconcerned. Detectives bring him in for questioning in fall 2016. In the interrogation room, Sanchez maintains his casual demeanor. He talks about paramedics being on scene. He mentions that staff members were aware something was wrong. We're all like, come on, this has to stop. He says about the jewelry thefts, but his tone suggests he's talking about a minor inconvenience, not a potential criminal targeting vulnerable residents. Detectives start asking about security footage. The answer is shocking. Preston Place specifically has no cameras on the 3rd or 4th floors. Most of the doors and exits are completely unmonitored. For someone who knows what they're doing, it would be remarkably easy to slip in and out unnoticed. Investigators interview paramedics who responded to the scenes. They're all cleared. The bodies were always already covered when they arrived. Without physical evidence, without witnesses, without anything substantial beyond missing jewelry, the investigation hits a dead end. No arrests are made. The case goes cold. Until March 19th, 2018, when Mary Bartell wakes up. Let's return to that Monday morning. 8 o'clock. Mary is at her computer in her Preston Place apartment, writing an email to her children. She hears insistent rapping at her door. Assuming it's a friend or trusted staff member, she unlocks the door. But as the lock clicks, the door is forcefully pushed open. A tall man barges inside. Mary tries to close the door, but he's too strong. That's when she sees them. Green rubber gloves. In that instant, Mary knows. Her life is in grave danger.
I knew instantly when I saw those 2 green rubber gloves, my life was in grave danger. He said, "Don't fight me. Lie on the bed."
"Don't fight me," the man commands. "Lie on the bed." Mary has no choice. The man towers over her frail 91-year-old frame. She tries to fight back, pushing against him, but she's clearly outmatched. He grabs a pillow from her bed and presses it firmly over her face. Mary can't breathe. She reaches desperately for her life alert pendant hanging around her neck, but her arm is pinned down. Within seconds, Mary loses consciousness. The attacker works quickly. He removes her wedding ring, he takes her other jewelry, and then he leaves, confident that he's left behind another victim who will be discovered hours later and ruled a natural death, just like all the others. But Mary Bartell isn't like all the others. When her friend Jackie arrives at 9 o'clock for their exercise class and finds the door ajar, she immediately calls 911. The quick response saves Mary's life. More importantly, Mary wakes up, and she remembers everything. Mary gives police a complete description of her attacker. Tall, approximately 5 feet 10 inches, 180 pounds, wearing clean professional clothing, carrying a satchel, most distinctively, green rubber gloves. It's the first solid lead investigators have had in years. Detectives immediately canvass the retirement home for witnesses. Multiple employees report seeing a suspicious man matching that exact description lurking on the premises multiple times. He's been visiting the 4th floor, claiming to check for pipe leaks. He's well-dressed, professional-looking, carrying a bag. Nobody questioned him because he looked like he belonged. Then comes the break they've been waiting for. Around the same time as Mary's attack, a concerned resident calls police about a suspicious man loitering in the parking lot for hours near his vehicle. The resident took note of the license plate. When police run the plates, they find the car is registered to someone named Billy Chemirmir. Detectives pull up Chemirmir's information. He's 46 years old. He matches Mary's description perfectly. He has a background in healthcare. And, most alarmingly, he has a criminal record that includes trespassing at a retirement home in 2016, where he pretended to be a maintenance worker to gain entry. Security footage from multiple facilities shows the same man in different outfits: blue nurse scrubs, healthcare provider t-shirts, plumber uniforms. He's a chameleon, changing appearance and identity to blend in to wherever he needs to be. He has access to vulnerable elderly residents. He knows their routines. He knows which facilities have limited security. And he's been doing this for years without getting caught. But remember that woman in red at Walmart? March 20th, 2018, one day after Mary's attack, Billy Chemirmir's vehicle pulls into a Walmart parking lot just 5.7 miles from Preston Place. Security cameras capture everything. At 2:30 p.m., Chemirmir enters the store. He's not there to shop, he's searching. An elderly woman in a red jacket is shopping for groceries, completely oblivious. For over 20 minutes, Chemirmir stalks her through the aisles. He follows her to the checkout, he follows her to her car, and then he follows her out of the parking lot in his vehicle. The cameras capture it all. This is how he selects his victims. He doesn't target facilities randomly. He trails women from public places back to their homes, learning their routines, identifying whether they live alone, determining if they're vulnerable enough to attack. That same day, 5:50 p.m., police finally spot Chemirmir's vehicle based on the license plate. Officers begin following him. He drives to an apartment complex and stops in front of a dumpster. He gets out, throws something inside, and drives away. Some officers continue tailing him while others immediately investigate the dumpster. Inside, they find a bright red jewelry box. It's been broken into. Some valuables are still inside, along with a name tag and documents. The name reads Lottie Vang Harris, an 81-year-old woman who lives less than 2 miles away. Police race to Lottie's residence. It's a welfare check that could mean life or death. A neighbor tells them he saw Lottie at the post office at 4:30 that afternoon, just an hour ago. Maybe she's okay. Maybe they're in time. They're not. Police force entry into Lottie Harris's home and find her body. She has been gone for less than an hour. Billy Chemirmir ended her life, stole her jewelry, threw the evidence in a dumpster, and was about to get away with it. But thanks to Mary Bartell's survival and description, police are already on his trail. Lottie's granddaughter, Karen Vuong, is at university when her father picks her up unexpectedly. He's sobbing. Lottie was gorgeous, Karen would later say. She loved dressing up. She had a smile like a little kid. The family will never understand why Chemirmir chose her of all people. At 6 o'clock that evening, officers arrest Billy Chemirmir outside his Dallas apartment complex. In his vehicle and apartment, they find a massive collection of evidence. Multiple cell phones, green rubber gloves, multiple pieces of jewelry belonging to previous victims, documents with multiple aliases, a fake passport, evidence linking him to more than one suspicious death. Shamir Mir is taken to the police station and placed in an interrogation room. He feigns innocence and confusion. When detectives present him with evidence, he remains eerily calm. They tell him about the jewelry found in his possession, about the surveillance footage from Walmart, about Mary Bartell's detailed description, about Lottie Harris's body found just an hour after he threw her jewelry in a dumpster. Shamir Mir portrays himself as a legitimate buyer and seller of jewelry. He laughs in the footage from pawn shops, shaking hands with owners, acting like a regular businessman. Through multiple pawn shops, diamond stores, and online marketplaces like eBay, Shamir reportedly made over $100,000 selling stolen jewelry, but investigators believe the real number is much, much higher. The owner of Diamond and Gold Exchange immediately recognizes Shamir as a frequent customer. He appeared in their security footage consistently over the years, always friendly, always professional, always with expensive jewelry to sell. Nobody suspected the jewelry came from victims. It takes months to build the case. Investigators review hundreds of deaths. They contact dozens of families. They gather evidence from multiple crime scenes. The pattern becomes horrifyingly clear. Shamir would scope out victims at public places like grocery stores or shops. He would follow them home or to their retirement communities. He would gain entry by posing as a maintenance worker, healthcare provider, or plumber. He would suffocate his victims with pillows, making it look like natural death. He would steal their jewelry, and then he would move on to the next victim.
The trial of Billy Shamir starts in just a couple of hours.
Prosecutors believe that the evidence against Shamir in the murder of Lou Thee Harris.
April 2022. After a first trial ends in a mistrial, the second attempt to bring Billy Mir to justice finally begins. Prosecutors focus the trial on Lottie Harris's case specifically, even though Shamir is suspected in at least 18 other fatalities. Her case has the strongest evidence. She was his last victim, attacked about an hour before his arrest. On the first day of trial, Mary Bartell's testimony is played for the court. Now 93 years old, Mary had recorded her testimony earlier. Her words paint a horrific picture. She describes the insistent knocking, the green rubber gloves, the pillow pressed firmly over her face, the desperate attempt to reach her life alert pendant, the certainty that she was going to die. "I thought I would die," Mary says in the recording. "I'm not afraid to die, but I didn't want to die that way." Mary's testimony is some of the strongest evidence prosecutors have. She told them exactly what Mir did and how he did it. In the courtroom, victims' families hang on every word, knowing their own mothers and grandmothers endured the same terror.
At this time, having a jury of 12 that had found him guilty of the offense of capital murder, he was suffered a sentence of life without the possibility of parole.
April 28th, 2022. After deliberating for just 45 minutes, the jury convicts Billy Mir of capital murder. He is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Lottie Harris's family feels relief wash over them. Their mom and grandmother are gone, but justice has been served. He would get what his actions deserve, they say. "We are incredibly relieved that justice is finally here." But justice for Lottie is just the beginning. The judge allows families of all 22 victims linked to Mir to give victim impact statements. They bring large photographs of their mothers and grandmothers to hold up in court. They address Mir directly for the first time. "My mother was Marianne Nelson," one daughter says. "She was healthy and vibrant, kind, funny, and she loved life. She taught me to always look for the good in everyone." Helen Lee's granddaughter talks about her Grammy being the most loving, caring, compassionate person. Marilyn Biggsler's children described their mother's last happy days with her best friend Helen, before both were found deceased weeks apart. The families also have strong words for the retirement communities that failed to protect their residents. "We hope that what we've gone through here, that these communities wake up and hold themselves accountable," they say. October 7th, 2022. Billy Mir is convicted for a second time in the death of another victim, ensuring he will never walk free again. Prosecutors continue building cases for other incidents, determined to bring closure to as many families as possible. Mary Bartell never got to see the final verdict. She passed away peacefully in 2020, just days shy of her 93rd birthday. But her legacy lives on. Because of her courage, because she survived and remembered, because she gave police the description that led to Mir's capture, countless other potential victims were saved. Mary's heroism at 91 years old prevented Chemimir from acting again. Her family remembers her as proof that courage has no age. Her memory is cherished by everyone who knew her. And the families of all the other victims will forever be grateful to the brave woman who refused to become just another statistic. The case of Billy Chemimir exposed catastrophic failures in how retirement communities handle security and how authorities investigate elderly deaths. Hundreds of women suffered suspicious deaths that were quickly ruled natural causes without proper investigation. Families who raised concerns were dismissed, warning signs were ignored, and a criminal was allowed to hunt freely for years because nobody wanted to believe a serial offender was targeting grandmothers. Today, investigators believe Chemimir may be responsible for up to 700 deaths across Dallas area retirement communities, though he will likely only be charged with a fraction of those cases. Many families will never get definitive answers about whether their loved ones were victims, but Mary Bartell made sure that at least some of those families got justice. At 91 years old, after being suffocated with a pillow and left for dead, she woke up and fought back the only way she could, with her memory, with her testimony, with her refusal to let him win. That's the legacy of Mary Bartell. And that's why Billy Chemimir will spend the rest of his life behind bars.